And what I'm hearing from our Farm Bureau members here is that Nancy Pelosi could look like a real hero if she would put the MCA on the, bring it up for a vote.
I'm grabbing this. I'm listening. Hi.
I heard on Agri Talk the other day that Big Labor is okay with MCA as you got it now. That may have been a optimistic statement, but out here it almost looks like she's being vindictive and petty and blaming rural America, wanting to punish rural America for voting for Trump.
Yeah, so let me lay the story straight on where we're at. First and foremost, we're very close to getting this done, and as a matter of fact, I would disagree with everything that you're hearing, because the truth of the reality is the speaker literally called me and Abby Finkenauer and said, I want you two at the meeting with President Trumka, who is head of the AFL-CIO, so oversight of all labor essentially, the one who's negotiating this agreement with Lighthizer from the administration, and the working party, which is in the Democratic-controlled House, but it's the Republicans and Democrats that work on it together within Ways and Means. It's a working group. And let me tell you, the speaker wants to get it to yes, and the reason she had me come is so that I personally could talk to Trumka and tell him, exactly what you're saying, that, I'm out here working hard to make sure that rural America has what it needs and that we're serving our farmers. I was the one who opened up the EPA, the investigation into the EPA on this administration's issuance of renewable fuel standard waivers to help rich shareholders for fossil fuel on the backs of our farmers. I've been talking about trade for, pushing this through. And so the speaker knows I'm actively trying to make it happen, but I'm being, exactly to your point, there's folks saying that's not the case. The speaker wants to get to yes. And she absolutely wants this trade deal to get done. She was behind NAFTA. And so Trumka's the one who he's almost there with the labor piece. He says we're on the 7-yard line. So I would please let everybody know that the speaker absolutely wants to get it to yes. So does the leader. So does Chairman Neal, who's responsible for the negotiations within Ways and Means. And that's why they're actively working on this every single day. And to kind of put the record straight, the document did not even come over to the working groups in the House until summertime. So the president had been telling folks that it was the House was keeping it from coming for a vote. The working document itself from the administration didn't even come over to the House until the beginning of July, just before we went to July recess. And then we worked through a bunch of issues like the biologics pharmaceutical piece. You may have been at a meeting where I talked about that. That's coming really close, and now it's just finalizing 3 pieces of the labor regulations. So to your point, the labor looks really good, the writing of it, but the regulatory oversight of the labor isn't there. So I met with the ambassador from Mexico about 10 days ago, who showed me the language and the numbers from a labor perspective. Our concern with labor is that we put great policy in place, which this trade agreement does, and I'm glad we're working on a good trade agreement, which says they've got to have a certain amount of folks who oversee mediation and grievances by employees. They've got to have a certain amount of people who are in the manufacturing facilities, et cetera, making sure that regulations are followed, that type of thing. That's all in the language. Problem is there's no stick to make it happen, and that's where labor is concerned. And so what they want to see is a stick, and specifically this, and if we can get this resolved, everything's going to be good with them. What they'd like to see is that if a product that is supposed to have been made with those labor regulations, so meeting certain requirements regarding how employees are treated, work hours, pay, etc., environmental regulations, etc., if that product is produced and then gets to our border and realize that it did not come from, it didn't meet those standards, that we don't accept the product and that it goes back and it's, you know, to Mexico. And that's the piece they really want to get through. They think that's the stick that's going to hold them to those regulatory labor pieces that I agree with you. We're good with those. What they want is a stick to make sure that it happens.